and go on. Yes, I will, trust me. I want you to have a plan, and I want you to have a program to execute that plan. And I want you to constantly know what it is. Know where you're going. I want you to develop patience. But I also want you to have persistence. If you believe in it, damn it, stick it. Stick with it. Don't back off because mother says, oh, gee, I wanted you to be a lawyer. If you think that you'd make a better plumber, and there's nothing wrong with being a plumber. There's nothing wrong. You make very good money, you know. I'll guarantee you in the next little while it's going to be very hard to find a plumber to fix your houses because there are not many people out there. The average age of plumbers in Toronto, 57 years of age. You know, smart engineer, maybe you can organize a plumbing business that'll make money for you, or electric, or whatever it is. I want you to understand the relationship between products and price and promotion. I want you to understand some practices. I want you to have some principles. I want you to learn about process. And don't be afraid of the word profit. It's not dirty and immoral to make money. It isn't. We live in a capitalistic society. That is what has driven the success of us around the world. I think the most important thing I want you to remember is I want you to have passion. I want you to have passion in everything you do. And just like I still have passion at my year, that's what gets me up every morning and says, gee, I want to get on with it. Because it's achieving what you want to do. You only live with yourself. You don't live with your wife or your husband. You go to bed with yourself and you sleep with yourself, and you've got to learn that. That doesn't mean that you don't have friends and you don't Twitter them and you don't say, gee, I'm in the supermarket and I'm buying broccoli. Okay, that's fine. I want you to get out there and I want you to get to meet the people. I want you to go out and hug them. Nothing wrong with that. I want you to have passion for what you do.
No, please don't shut up, but just maybe please maybe take some answers or provide some answers to some questions we have in the audience over there.
I'm just curious, when you were our age, what do you and Bill and AC got for fun?
What we do for fun? We drank beer and tried to figure out who was going to go get the pizza. If you ever go to California, there's a place called Ricky's Hyatt House. It's part of it's not, you know, Cupertino and that place. There used to be tumbleweed go down the streets in 1980. So, you know, and none of us had a car. We had old cars. And Bill used to ride a motorcycle. So that's the way it was. So we exchanged ideas. We used to try to figure out how to steal each other's engineers. One of the reasons I never went to California, I never had a manufacturing operation in California, was in West Pennsylvania. Why? Well, General Electric was around the corner, and so there was a great UNIVAC. Everybody remember a UNIVAC?
Yeah.
Old computer company?
Yeah.
At any rate, UNIVAC had a lot of engineers. I could steal them. Out in California, it was much tougher to steal them from the young companies starting. Yeah. I should have had my gray sweater on today. I know I wouldn't do that.
Of all the things you've done in your life, what was the biggest risk that you've taken?
Biggest risk?
Biggest risk, especially in your personal...
Getting married.
Nice.
That worked out very well. She's a beautiful girl, and she was the dance champion of the world in figure skating. I knew her, and it worked out well. Unfortunately, she was killed in a crash, but, you know, come back to learn my life. In a business, what was my biggest challenge? I think I gave up $325,000 at Nortel as an officer of the company and a bunch of stock and that sort of stuff to go to Commodore, and not make quite as much money, but it was a risk. And working for two guys who were absolutely impossible. Jack Tramiel, if you've ever heard of Jolly Jack, Neutron Jack Tramiel, used to sit opposite me in a 6x6 room. We shared a desk, he smoked cigars, and I was trying to run the company. And he had 3 sons, and he insisted on Sam and his other two boys running the company. That's where you get into situations where you work for a family or a family company, or you work for somebody who's domineering and wants his family involved. Those are dynamics that you're all going to have to learn about when you get involved. So pick where you're going and make sure that, you know, but don't shy away from a real tough issue, you know, because it might turn out to be great. You might just be the perfect person to solve the problem. Yeah.
If you know, I don't know, probably Zuckerberg, the Page, all those guys.
That's a new generation. I know of them, met them. We were all together recently in Las Vegas. We had a testimonial for Steve, which Bill and I put on right after CES. We took 50 students from around the world, and we took them out to meet a bunch of executives, and we had a party, and yeah, they're the new boys.
How do you compare their ideologies and their principles to the
They're another generation. They're another generation. You know, very few people ever hit it twice in a row. You know, you make it once and you do. I was lucky. I've made a couple of, I built another company called American Sensor, which is the carbon monoxide detector, which you probably have in your house. Most recently did the smart meter for Ontario Hydro. You probably cursed me for that smart meter that sits in your house. I don't know what it does, but the government wanted a smart meter, so we built a smart meter. They don't know yet what to do with it, but you know, we built 2 million of them. Hey, every generation. I guess maybe my message is one in about 10,000 of them ever get to be a Zuckerberg or whatever they are.
Whatever they are.
What's the determining factor that makes you wake up one day and say, you know, I'm done, I'm cashing out? How do you know when that's time?
I guess I knew it was time when the chairman of the board was thinking of changing the marketing direction of the company. The major shareholder. And in any company, you may be the CEO, but you may not control the company. You know, the titles mean nothing. It's ultimately the shareholder. And Steve found that out himself. Okay, you well remember that the board, very good friends of mine, Ben Rose and Arthur Rock, they all thought Steve was useless, and he was at that time. He was hopeless. They didn't solve much in Scully. You know, Scully, you've read all about Scully, and Scully's a good friend of mine, but Hells Bells. Scully's claim to fame was he was married to the boss's daughter. You know, he was married to Emerson's daughter. Emerson was the chairman of the board of Pepsi. Scully married her. Sure, he got to be the vice president of South America. But and Scully had his thing. I don't know where. Oh, I think Scully and his brother run a venture capital fund. I've never seen Scully again in corporate life that I know.
What was the other Steve?
Pardon?
What was the other Steve?
Which Steve? Oh, the Woz. Well, the Woz was a different personality, and that you know, that's what he's like. He's like Paul Allen. You know, there's a whole string of these guys. They all. I didn't want to do that. My life is having fun in small companies. You can look at my websites, www.lanecouncil.com. You'll see I sit on the board of a lot of small companies. I like small companies, and I work with a lot of them. Got a brand new company just started up this week called Sigmund Wireless, and we're going to be doing a lot of work in building wireless. Why? Because you're going to come into this building. You know, in my generation, there was 4 letters that used to stand out. It was our social. We talk about social worlds. You know, BYOB stands for Bring Your Own Bottle. And that's what we used to do in our life. You know, we used to go to parties and bring our own bottle. That was our social media. You know what your generation is? BYOD. It's called Bring Your Own Device. Right? The biggest single problem that we have with BYOD is there's no network for you to run on. You got zillions of apps, and a cell phone is just an app. It doesn't work unless there's a network. You know, you can't get down to the basement of the center and your phone works. You can't go in the garage. Most of them don't work on elevators. Why? Well, the building owner doesn't want to put it in. He wants to build the building as cheap as humanly possible, and then the next thing he wants you to worry about going to your office. So, a lot of things in the whole wireless world, and mobility and mobile and wireless will be killer apps in no question. Yeah?
Go ahead, yeah. When I was really young, my dad had a Commodore 64.
Right.
And like when I was around 10 or something, I convinced my dad that it was no longer useful and I told him to throw away. And he did. And out of my appreciation for my dad now, and I'm a computer engineer, I have an appreciation for computers now. I was wondering if there's any possible way I could get my hands on one.
On a Commodore 64? Well, if you go on to any of the websites, there's lots of them kicking around in stock. There was a guy recently in Atlanta who's just launched a high-tech version in the same case.
I saw that, but I actually want the original.
Yeah. You'd have to go to flea market or auctions or that sort of stuff. I've had mine all bronze. I got a couple. I got some parts, but I don't have a full them anymore. I got lots of games. That was, you know, when you think about it, what was the Commodore 64? It was a game machine.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
the most successful product today? The iPhone. What is it? Game machine. What's the iPad? What's the biggest thing made on the iPad? Game
Angry
machine
Birds.
and watching pornography. So don't give me all this nonsense about computers.
This guy's my favorite. This guy's my favorite.
Entertainment. And that's what this world is all about. Once again, I said, it is having fun and it's being entertained. And that's what it is.
What am I doing?
Sorry, I can't get you one. But as Gates once said at a meeting, you know, we'll never need more power than the 8 meg that we got in that, or 8 kilobits that we got in that silly machine. Same statement that Bill made. That was also the night that we were all down in Dallas, Texas, and we were at a conference.
More stories,
We were supposedly there to make speeches, but I think we were being bamboozled by a guy who was running a conference. So there was Gates and myself and Steve and Bill Turner. Bill was the president of Texas Instruments, and they had the 99.4A. Oh, and there was the guy from Coleco. Coleco had another. And we were all sitting there, we were making this speech, and we finished up about 5 o'clock, and everybody looked at each other, and we said, who's paying for dinner? We figured, you know, the organizer of this convention was going to pay for dinner. And we found out very quickly. We were there, we were paying to do the show, but we weren't getting anything out of this at all. Thanks very much. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great conference. And if there's anything in the future, Kevin knows where to get a hold of me. I'd be very happy to help you in any way if there's something I can do, short of giving you a loan.
Guys,